we talk about implementing SEL, right? We talk about being aware of what's going on, socially aware, personally aware, being able to self-manage, being able to make responsible decisions, right? Being able to build relationships. But how are we expecting that to be transferred to students, but we have not set the precedence with the adults? So we have to rethink that process. We want them to be able to pass down the SEL pieces, right? But if we're not using them and actively implementing them with the adults, how real is that outcome going to be? Because you heard Superintendent Estrada on yesterday, I think she was at lunch, she said, how many of you all heard of SEL when you were kids? Were any of you present then? How many people raised their hand in the building? None. So, but we're expecting teachers to implement SEL strategies when they haven't been exposed. I was a grown man before I realized some of the things that encompass SEL, about being resilient, that you're supposed to go through things. Like, our kids are not being taught that. Many of our adults don't realize that we have to push through pain, that roadblocks can't stop us. That's just another thing that we have to get around. We have to figure out how to get past it. All that is crucial. So if we're going to empower people, that's one of the things that we definitely have to think about. An adult SEL focus will lead to the student SEL focus that we desperately need. We say it's not about manipulation, it's about inspiration. It's about inspiring. No longer are the days where the principal just comes in and say, everybody's gonna do this. This is how it is. That's over with, all right? This is not the 1960s and 70s. Leadership is influence. Leadership is about putting people in position where they could be successful. It's about uplifting them. It's about collaborating. It's about all of those things that you said in the beginning. But we want to continue to look at that. It's about the potential and the person. It's about people and purpose, right? So when we're dealing with our adults, because again, we want them to pass it down to the students. We want to talk to them. We want to treat them as if they're the professionals that they are, that we believe that they're going to meet the expectations, because we know that if we put in the negative pieces, that's what's going to come out. So again, we pump that into our teachers, our educators. Now we're creating an environment where they can truly, truly pass it down to the students. Again, it's always about the people and purpose, not just alone. See, we can get caught up in our purpose and not think about the people. You can get caught up in the people and forget your purpose. So again, all those are true empowerment principles. And a couple of things you can do to increase that commitment and accountability are those data talks. Those individual data talks with students as well as with the adults. That's the missing piece. So we got to also have those data talks with them as well. Because again, if we want them to be able to push that type of conversation down to the student, we should have already facilitated it with them, so they can know what that looks like, what that feels like, the importance of that. So now you're looking at not only data in the classroom from the academics, but also if I know your leadership style, I'm also to speak to that data. I'm also able to speak to your strengths and struggles, because again, that's also data. Also, highlight team initiatives. Team initiatives that help build that collaboration, that help build the commitment. When you have a team, when you're working with and through others, you don't want to let your team down, especially in a positive environment, right? Especially when we've been working together and we built this up. We've created a culture of collaboration. It wasn't just there. We had to work on it. So those team initiatives. And an example of a team initiative may be like a career expo, a career exposition. Great way to get educator buy-in. All of your teachers are going to want to bring in somebody that they know. But you plan it 5-6 months in advance. If you've got an administrator and training program, that would be ideal. But if not, you can still run it through the entire faculty. Because now everyone's going to bring in somebody. We're going to set it up. We're going to give the children an opportunity to choose the career people that they want to see on this particular day. So you're automatically increasing that commitment and that accountability in that same store. Now, also, you think about what your signature strategy is. I ask principals all the time, what's your signature instructional strategy that you use in your students? How is it culturally relevant, and how does it push students to the next level, and how does it increase teacher capacity? So now you're talking about stations, reciprocal teaching, those cooperative learning groups that are not always easy to put on. But if I have trained my teacher with the proper mindset as to why these particular teaching practices are important, why we need to use them, it takes on a different meaning. The professional development takes on an entirely different meaning when we provide that mindset training to go along with it. So what would be the mindset training on reciprocal teaching? Well, we're trying to reach our struggling students. It's a socially interactive technique. They learn to clarify, summarize, as well as predict. And they learn to facilitate it on their own. So this is crucial because we're pushing them to the next level. We want to be able to turn them loose where they can learn what they need to learn on their own, take ownership of their learning. So that's why we want this strategy to go hard in the school. Why we want to be able to use stations, why we want to be able to use reciprocal teaching, because they have high yields. Just like high yield and instructional practices lead to collaboration, collaboration leads to performance. We work with, through other people. And when we build that trust, when we build up our camaraderie, we're able to work better together. That commitment becomes stronger because we put the time into what we're trying to accomplish, not just doing something, right? You build up respect, and all of a sudden your team becomes aligned in their purpose. So again, high yield instructional practices lead to collaboration. The collaboration is what leads to the increased performance. For too long, we've just looked at collaboration on the surface level, right? But we've got to start digging in a little bit deeper, start looking at some frameworks to implement it, and so forth. Okay, we're gonna do a quick activity here, all right? How many of you don't know at least one person in the room? Somebody in the room that you don't know. Is that everybody? Okay, all right, good. All right, so I want you to find somebody that you don't know. All right, at this time, from my perspective, partner A is gonna say, from my perspective, our biggest problem of practice our school is facing is the solution I propose. All right, then partner B is gonna say, from my perspective, I can see how that may be a problem because blase blase, but from my perspective, the biggest issue our school is facing is, and the solution I propose. All right, so I want you guys to pair up, and once you have finished the conversation, we're gonna say a minute and a half, then we're gonna do something else out of that same activity, okay? Any questions? Go to someone that you don't know. Go collaborate with someone you don't know.